1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people.
What does that have to do with anything he was talking about, though?
Let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have an America First mega guy running, obviously. So the question is, what do you bring to the table?
You said MAGA.
MAGA.
Okay.
And the answer is, I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America, by far, is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25%.
See, but that statistic is misrepresented, bro. That's not actually true. It's just they run with the narrative of single mothers being unwed. Just because the parents are unwed does not mean the father isn't present. Yeah. This is from blackdemographics.com. Contrary to popular belief, 42% of black children live with two parents, compared to 70% of all children, while 51% live with one parent, compared to 25% of all children. The reason why this is not well known may have to do with a commonly repeated statistic regarding out-of-wedlock births, 70%, which only takes into account whether or not a woman was married at the time she gave birth. That really means nothing, though. Just because she's not married does not mean the father isn't present. But anyway, I'm not going to dive into all this. Is about Larry Elder. My bad. I got sidetracked.
Is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-'60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well...
But how can you just abandon your moral and financial responsibility, bro? The courts will come after your ass and put you in jail. Men just can't say, fuck it, I'm not going to be president, bro. The motherfuckers will come after your ass if the woman's going to press it.
There are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black male. Same demo for whites, the number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by black people, often against other black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are black victims, almost all killed by other blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of '64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%. You can't blame it on poverty, you can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons?
What up, man? Hey, do me a favor, please, and please subscribe to my Rumble account. And link for it in the description box. If you know, you know. But YouTube has made it very difficult for your boy to do anything. A lot of y'all should know about Rumble. You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want. You ain't worried about nothing over there. It's real. So, I need y'all to, mess with me over there. Bruh, your boy's hands are tied. You know what I mean? But, we ain't going nowhere. So ain't gonna stop, bruh. Just make minor adjustments, keep it pushing. Dog, we built for it. But, love y'all. Night Talk, Night Nation. Back to your regularly scheduled program.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the mid-'60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlemagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this, advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia. A young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people.
What does that have to do with anything he was talking about, though, bro? Like, see, that's what I'm talking about, bro. Like, his main focus is on fatherless homes, right? Even though I think the stat is overblown, I still think I agree with him as far as it being an issue with society. Like, you don't have a father in the house, more than likely that son gonna be fucked up. That girl gonna be fucked up too. Stop cussing so much, DB. But why deflect? Why are we talking about what white folks got to do? What's the point of even bringing that up? I mean, I know it's Charlemagne and trying to make it a whole toxic ass conversation and shit, bro. But that literally had nothing to do with what Larry Elder was talking about, bro.
People. I'm worried about what
facts.
And it's had a disproportionately
That's
bad effect
whack,
on the
bro.
black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No,
systemic
there used to
racism?
be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I'd probably maybe say mass incarceration, maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married black man to a black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, But I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and black people do that. And when I ask you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried
I
about it.
don't know if I can get through this, bro. Oh man, how long am I in? Just 5 minutes, bro. Like, he just said he agreed with Larry, bro. He literally just came out his mouth. I'm not gonna disagree with you, bro. I believe the breakdown of the family is a big reason why. That's all Larry Elder said. That's all he's saying. Fatherless homes lead to A, B, C, and D. What white people doing is wrong have to do with what I'm talking about? He's just in his feelings right now, which is getting me in my feelings right now. I hate it, bro. Like, there's nothing productive that's going to come from this, bro.
Wrong. Black people do this and black people do that. And when I ask you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale, where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was a black. And I think most of those who were doing this were black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me.
Facts.
These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone reelected a black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have black mayors, even though no city has a majority of black population. The president of Harvard is a black female. Martin Luther King in 1966, Charlemagne, gave an interview to the BBC. This is 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of '64 got passed. And he said, I'm amazed at how many positive changes there have been in America in the last 2 years. Why, if things keep going like this, we could have a black president in about 40 years' time. Do the math. Right on cue, Barack Obama elected 2008. He didn't say there'll be a black female president of Harvard, and there has been. He didn't say there are going to be black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and there have been several. He didn't say the percentage of the House would equal the percentage of black people in the population, and it does. He didn't say the three largest cities would have black mayors, and they do. He didn't say the largest and most prestigious organization of doctors, the American Medical Association, would have 2 black presidents, and there have been. He didn't say the most prestigious organization of lawyers, the American Bar Association, would have 2 black presidents, and they have. He said president, meaning at that point, I can feel that I've reached the mountaintop, which is the speech he gave right before he got assassinated, the day before. And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair, it's wrong, and you're discouraging black people from working hard.
Facts.
1996.
Okay. Mr. Elder.
Oh
quick
Lord,
question.
hear this bitch. Hey man, I don't feel like dealing with her, bruh. I don't feel like dealing with her, man. It's like, what is the goal? Like, I know it's views and good TV, man, but like, we really trying to, come to a solution. What is it that y'all want him to say, bro? It's like this victim mentality, bro, and blaming others and shit, especially where we are now in 2023. We have enough knowledge, resources to shift our mind state, black folks' mind state, and flip the script, regardless of whatever people believe there is systematically out there, bro. If black folks had it within them, the majority of black folks had it within them to shift their fucking mind state and look at it like a fucking Larry Elder, look at it like shit me at this point, other fools that share our perspective, bro. That's what it would take to fix everything. All right, we want to point the finger and blame everybody else for our fucking problems when black folk, when you just see, he listed all these prestigious, successful positions that black folks hold and we're able to attain with it being as oppressive of a society as it is, bro. But I've had these conversations before with black folks on the other side. Like, there's nothing that can be said to shift one's perspective from that, bro. Like, you're stuck. Like, Larry Elder's out here trying to uplift and empower black folks. And we want to fucking sit here and sulk and sorrow and pout about what the fuck happened years ago when we have it within our control, within our reach to fucking change everything. But we want the crutch. We want to blame white folks. Do I want to hear this bitch talk? I really don't. But let's do it.
Mr. Elder, quick question. Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system.
Okay.
You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the black family, should certainly have some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
But that holds the majority of the weight, regardless of the stat being overblown. I definitely believe that holds the majority of the weight, and why people out here moving crazy, bro. That's real shit. You got a fucking black father at home handling his business the way he's supposed to. None of this shit gonna fucking happen the way it has been. But we minimizing that because we're about to talk about how racist it is. Okay, let's do it.
So the question is, you said that the system encouraged black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in
Okay.
charge of the system? Who was in charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who were Democrats? Were they black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of black people were Democrats, as the majority of black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlemagne's point about white or black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions.
No, I didn't ask you that.
And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing,
she's not
they
trying to
cheered
hear what
all
you're
of
saying,
this.
bro.
Right,
That
and
is
what
a
I'm at-
bullshit ass point to say the politicians are all white, so the system is white. Nah, bro. Fuck that. The majority of black folks are Democrat, so it like contradicts your point. We just gonna ignore the fact that the majority of black folks vote Democrat.
Asking, was it white people? So I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of the system or black people in charge of
What does
that
that even
system
mean?
that helped break down the black family?
What does that
It's a
even
simple
mean?
yes, just a simple question, white or black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by
White
the
Democrats,
left.
correct? Okay. White Democrats,
most
correct.
black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people
Not
too.
voters. I said who's in charge of the
in charge?
system.
Well, who
Who was in charge?
Who put them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson
Who put
white
them-
or black?
Who put them in
And maybe
charge?
that'll
Well,
help you.
Fine, Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of
She thinks she got a checkmate, bro. Man, get this. Okay, all right, bro. You won because the majority of presidents are white. That was just an idiotic point, bro. Like, y'all should have people with higher IQs come up here and try to talk to this man and debate him, because y'all have made no points. It's all based on fucking feelings.
racism, then I
No.
disagree. He did it because of
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question. Was he white or black? Charlamagne?
And Mr. Elder, you said you talked about the smash and grabs, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
find that interesting because when you see the mass shootings that happen, majority of those people are white males. What do you think about that?
Actually, if you look at the percentage of whites in America, which is 60%, percentage of mass shooters is under that. Percentage of people that commit hate crime is under that. Percentage of people who are serial killers is under that. Black people are 13% of the population. We commit a greater percentage compared to that
But no,
of
you
mass
specifically
shootings.
talked about the smash and grabs, though. So I was saying, since you're using that as an example, I'm saying, well, what about the mass shooters that are usually white males?
One more time. They are
But how is that a point, though? And the smash and grabs are happening because police are not able to enforce things. That's why the smash and grabs are increasing. Mass shooters have nothing to do with the lack of police enforcing. Like, these black boys are out here taking advantage of the fact that police are not able to enforce the law. Right? White folks are not out here shooting people up because police can't enforce it. They out here shooting people up because of mental health. And even with that, it happens on a much smaller scale than the crime, murder, or homicides that black folks commit, regardless of the police enforcing. So that's a moot point too.
Usually white males, because 60% of the country is white. However, they underrepresent in terms of the number of mass shootings. About 50% or so of the mass shootings in this country are committed by white people, even though white people are 60% of the population. They underrepresent. We overrepresent when it comes to hate crime, when it comes to mass shootings, when it comes to serial killings, when it comes to robberies, when it comes to virtually every category of violent crime. We overrepresent.
So what do white people do wrong? I'm gonna keep asking you that. 'Cause
Well,
Bro,
it seems to me
Bro,
rather than deal
that's
with
that victim. I gotta turn it off, bro. Hey man, that's one of my the things that irritate me the most at this point is that fucking victim shit, bro. All he's saying is that the whole point is that we need to help ourselves instead of blaming others to fix the shit for us. But it's that mind state that Charlamagne has that continues to perpetuate this bitch by this victimhood mind state, bro. We the only ones that got that shit, that victimhood mind state. And I understand why it's there. I used to be there, bro. But that's what's holding us back. I don't give a damn what system you think is in front of you. Whatever's in your fucking way is not allowing you to fucking reach your goals and be as successful as you want to be. The main factor, the main variable in that shit to change that shit is black folk. No matter what the fuck anybody else do. What do white people do? What the fuck they got to do with anything, bro? He's telling you how black folks is fucking up.
What's going on, the pathology that's going on in the inner city, you want me to talk about how bad white people are,
No,
which I don't think is a pretty
You haven't brought it up though. What is the cause and effect?
I'm talking
I
the
think
cause.
there's a cause and effect, but if we can't talk about the cause, which I believe is systemic racism and white supremacy, the FBI says.
Well, I just told you, if it's systemic racism, please explain to me how it was when America really had systemic racism in 1940. 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Again, this is during Jim Crow era.
Yep.
My father is from Athens, Georgia,
Yep.
grew up in Jim Crow. My mom is from Huntsville, Alabama, grew up in Jim Crow. 87% of blacks live below the poverty line. This is before Brown versus Board of Education.
Probably
You
because we had
did
no
not
choice.
find these kind of black-on-black crime.
Probably because we had no
But they
choice
still
but
were
to do it
living
ourselves.
below the poverty line, though, sir.
I'm sorry?
You're forgetting the fact that they were still living below the poverty line. You're picking and choosing, saying this was good, but this was bad.
Okay.
The bottom line, they end between the poverty line. But let's move forward
Well,
on
let me.
system.
Can I just address that? In 1940, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. 1960, that number had fallen to 47%. That's a 40-point drop in 20 years. That's the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion for black people in the history of America.
Mic drop. He is giving these motherfuckers the business. The business, bro. Y'all are trash.
Versus Board of Education, well before the KKK imploded, well before we had race-based preferences. Why? Because it was rare for a black kid to be raised in a family without a father in the home. A strong belief in Judeo-Christian values, a belief in patriotism, even as America wasn't applying these values to black people, obviously, and a belief in entrepreneurship. All those things are now under assault by organizations like Black Lives Matter, Charlemagne. Black Lives Matter had on their website an attack on the nuclear family. The founders are self-described Marxists, trained Marxists. Marx wanted to dethrone God, was an atheist, and Marx did not believe in capitalism, let alone entrepreneurship. All the things that made black people still survive in virulent racism are now under attack by organizations like Black Lives Matter.
All of those things have always...
He is fucking cooking, bro. Like, how do you debate that, bro? I don't know. How do you debate that point? To compare and contrast black folks today compared to how they were when we were living in Jim Crow, when real racism was around, when you really couldn't do nothing, where you really couldn't go to certain establishments, where you really couldn't say shit, where you really couldn't wear shit, where you really couldn't, really go out here and get lynched and get fucked up. That's not happening today. But black folks are still having all these problems today when you literally can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Been under attack by white supremacy. You can go back to things like whether it's the Tulsa race massacres. Like every time black people do create these systems that are our systems and we are the entrepreneurs, it seems like white supremacy finds a way to destroy it.
Every time, look, the Tulsa massacre,
a lot. Every time.
within about 5 years, that whole area was rebuilt. It was not even called the Black Wall Street until after it was rebuilt. And it was rebuilt, by the way, by black people without one dime of government money.
Yeah, but who destroyed it to begin with?
It was racists who destroyed it. No question about it. We've had race riots, but so have Japanese.
Hold on.
He's trying to say that racism exists. Of course it exists. But he's talking about systemic racism. Racism and systemic racism are entirely two different things. You can't be moving the goalposts and make your points now. Come on now, you gotta be fair, bro.
There's racism. I'm just so confused.
I never even came close to saying. I never came close to saying there was no racism.
You just said you don't think it's systemic racism.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed black. Hold on, sir. That was
I'm
the
sorry?
system that destroyed. That was the system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same.
The same system that destroyed Black Wall Street. What are you talking about? It was a bunch of racist ass motherfuckers that came in there in Tulsa and tore everything up.
Living descendants, because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you move, and then you go on to say that
I'm fast forwarding through her though. I can't stand her, bro.
Late 1800s.
Can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming everything.
I know, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong.
You didn't say
community.
everything.
You said
talk
that's
about
what
the
I just
Asian
said. I didn't
community,
say
but
that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, it's easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses. You look at our
Because
community.
they got better credit, motherfucker. Bruh, you better not be. I hate that damn argument too. Come on, Steve. You gotta relax. You gotta relax. Bruh, there is. I'm gonna say absolute because the racism does exist, but systematically, bro. If you have the prerequisites, you have solid credit, you have good financial history, you're not gonna get denied on no fucking loans, bro. I don't give a damn what color you are, bro. That is a cop-out ass excuse, man. And then you want to fucking look at, I got denied a loan because of the color of my skin. No, you got denied a loan because you ain't paid your goddamn car note in 3 months, right? Your damn credit card bill is damn near maxed out. That's why you didn't get the damn loan, bro.
Really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which
Right,
is why
don't have Wi-Fi, don't have education,
which is
don't
why
have
one
books.
of the reasons I'm running for president is for school choice.
Also, would you say that is in our
That's
community
also
is
systemic. by the way.
it's also in our communities heavy food deserts. There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too. by the way.
Boy.
Would you say that's true? I'm just asking a question.
You said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about loans. In 1965, Obama, who was in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 black people were applying for loans for mortgages and didn't get them, and they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back.
Facts.
Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit, and Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of black-owned community banks around the country, and it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. But hold on a second.
What you mean that's not true, bro? He just gave you the stats. He gave you a whole study and some stats, bro. All right.
It's not
You're
true.
bringing back facts of 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because his father owns a house.
Because
his
of
father
you.
owns a house, right? But my father
Because of you and the drive. Because of you and the drive you put into him.
Did not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into him.
We're not going to have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking you a question. I just let you speak and I'll let you talk.
Okay.
Y'all can talk.
We have a conversation.
All right.
But when we talk about it, right, it's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores. It's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African-American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools.
But didn't he just say that the most black-owned banks don't have enough liquid to loan money out, so they're less inclined to give money to riskier clients? He just said that, bro. So like he didn't even listen to what Larry just said. He's just talking out of a place of feelings and ignorance. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't a bank, it doesn't make any sense financially, bro. If I have a qualified client here that looks like they clearly paid things back, pay things back on time, their credit history is fire, why wouldn't I give this motherfucker money so I can make money off of them? Right, but if you're risky, I'm not going to do it.
Not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it, and a 1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said.
He's just talking out his ass, bro. Like, at least Larry giving you references and studies and shit. He's just saying shit he's seen on Instagram. DJ Envy just saying shit he see on Instagram. I saw this post, so it must be true.
Rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against whites and in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan.
Facts.
Period. End of statement. Even the
sir,
head
Black
of
folks' financial literacy is terrible.
even the head of Urban League, a black man once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir,
Yes.
let's just okay.
All right, man, I'm done. I can't listen to her ass no more. I can't listen to her ass no more, bro. I'm good. This is a damn shit show like I thought it was gonna be. Nobody's making valid points. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? There's no talking to this though, bro. There's no talking to this. Like, this is for the show. This is to get views. This is for, Larry Elder's campaign and shit. It's gonna just cause more divide because no one's here to fucking listen. Either you're a victim or you're not. Point blank period, bro. Ain't nobody out here gonna give you no handouts. You get what you give. You gotta go out here and get it, earn that shit, and stop pointing the fucking finger because of our circumstances. Life isn't fair. It never will be fair. We are fucking miles ahead of where we were in the past. At the end of the day, it's on you. Is it easier for some than others? Absolutely, bro. But you got it within you. You got the opportunities and resources and access to information to go out here and achieve anything you want to do. And all this shit the Breakfast Club does is just give black folks a crutch and perpetuates that victim mentality. And you're not gonna get nowhere with that, bro. You gotta take that fucking that black victim hat off and open your fucking mind to the world, bro, and receive this shit, man. Then you become successful when the color of your skin don't fucking matter, bro. They look at their bank statement, they look at your fucking credit history, they look at that car in your fucking driver, they look at the work you've been doing, bro. Like, ain't nobody give a fuck about no damn color of your skin, bro. Even if they do give a fuck about the color of your skin, if you come with the correct shit, they can't deny you. But anyway.